Welcome to the Creative Island Podcast,
a show aimed at helping creative individuals transform their passion into profession.
Each episode will share powerful strategies, tips, and practical tools to empower you to create the income, the lifestyle, and the legacy you were designed for.
We are your hosts, Adam Bowman
and Jason Pepper.
Enjoy the show. Creative Island episode number, who cares? We out here, we have enough episodes, we don't have to say the number anymore. Today we have a fun one for you. I'm letting Jason take the driver's seat here. How you doing, Jason, first and foremost?
Good, man. I'm good.
Good. I mean, I'm glad you've never said I'm bad, because then that would just be like, why the fuck are we doing a podcast?
I know. Can you imagine I was one of those guys? How you doing today? Not good. Then you're like, oh shit, now I gotta listen to this guy tell me all the reasons why he's not good.
I wouldn't do it.
Do you have any of those friends?
A couple, but again, since I got into film school, I just cliqued out with the people that I had the same values, and we all gas each, just like this, we gas each other up. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there, and there's no point in going down that road.
Birds of a feather flock together,
Already hitting dingers, bro. All right, what you got for me today, dude?
So in the last couple episodes, we're talking about what artists can do and what, all the right things to do and, how to work hard and stuff. But I wanted to give people some perspective so they have some comparison, to go off of. Because if you've got nothing to measure your efforts against, you don't even know where you are.
Yeah.
Right? And numbers are sexy. You got to know your business. Yeah. You got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we'll just start with, numbers are sexy. You got to know your product or services. Okay. So if that's like live shows or movies or, you're selling your acting services or whatever it is, you got to know all your products and services. And then you have to know roughly what you charge for those services. You have to understand those numbers.
Like a reference point.
Yeah, you need some reference point, and it can be an average. Some shows are higher grossing than others, and that's fine.
Yeah. But
there's an average line there that's really important. And then it comes down to number of customers, so volume of customers. That's it.
Yeah.
That's how, there's no hidden things there.
It's like a paradigm in some degree. That's X, Y, Z. This is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you start, regardless of what you're, whether you're talking about the number of customers or the amount you're charging, you can sort of reverse engineer, and really get to understand your business a lot more when you're clear on all those things.
Okay.
We talked about in other episodes, if you're an artist and, you need to charge an unrealistic amount of money for a gig and you don't actually get gigs, it's like sometimes volume is the only way you can do it. You have to take the small little paying gigs.
Yeah.
And you just have to do a lot of them.
Yeah.
And that's all part of it.
Shit happens. And it's not any less honorable than doing a big number. It's just you have to do what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you're truly on a mission as an artist, it shouldn't matter. If you really, really love what you do and your mission is to, just communicate to people on a deeper level, and that's where you get your kicks, is getting up on stage and just connecting with an audience, whether you're an actor, comedian, or musician. If that's really what drives you, you don't care if you're playing for free some nights. You don't care if you're playing for 5 people or 5,000 people. It doesn't matter. Because it's your mission's way bigger. You're not getting caught up in trivial stuff. You're not like, hey, everybody's got to pay bills. But if you know your numbers and you know how many gigs you got to do a month, how many people roughly are at the gig, then you can trace things down to the cost per person. There's a lifetime customer cost, an acquisition cost. There's all these different things that we can think about to try to get a more predictable, more, understandable,
quantifiable,
perspective on your business.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you want to keep an eye on that.
And that's how you create a business model as an artist at the same time.
It's a business plan.
Yeah, because before, I think when you start and you don't know how to itemize anything, or you don't even know what that looks like, you can't put a price to an item. You have no idea. But once you start being able to do that, that's how you kind of figure out what a business model actually looks like, and your reference point versus how many dollars are coming in, how many are going out, how many I need to do to come up on the good end of the month. What does that look like when I'm booking shows? How do I quantify this for setting a ticket price? And everything kind of trickles down from there.
Yeah, but the other thing too is, it's not really, you don't want to compare yourself to others, but it is a good exercise to go and look at what the marketplace is paying certain types of bands, and if, like I'm talking in terms of bands, but this could translate to anything. If you're seeing bands and they're selling out certain venues and you're sort of plus or minus where those people are, and that's where you think you need to go, that's probably a good reference point.
Yeah.
Or, be a bit more conservative and just maybe lower the cost a bit more. But that's usually a rule of thumb. It's like if you want to be a plumber, well, you can't just jump into the marketplace as a brand new plumber and start charging what the senior plumbers are getting. It just doesn't work like that, right?
You got a system.
You got to find what the market's willing to pay, and then as you get more notoriety, as you kind of grow and things get better, then the threshold kind of gets bumped up.
Yeah,
it's what
and
you can
at the same time, there's a lot of people out there too, so it'll kind of dictate itself. Like it is an astronomical amount of people out there doing what you're doing too, right? Like
totally. Yeah. But I don't think that's super important. What's more important is that you're doing the stuff so that you are standing out more than other people. Work ethic will make you stand out more than anything. More than you can make something really creative, but I think the days of really pioneering something so new and so revolutionary are it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah, like after AI's the advent of good high quality AI is going to mitigate a lot of that too, anyways, because people won't see the need for as much innovation anymore.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that look, when Elvis Presley came on the scene, it was pretty revolutionary because there wasn't a lot like it.
Yeah,
right. But then the Beatles came on the scene, and then all of a sudden, there's only 12 notes in the key of music, right? So you can only do that so many ways. Yeah. That's actually why a lot of companies are buying catalogs now.
Interesting.
You see all the big guys, all these big players now in the marketplace, the big record companies, they're buying out catalogs.
Interesting.
Because they know that down the road, hey, your song sounds like that Tom Petty song, lawsuit, rights, you're even if they, it has no relationship, right?
Totally.
I don't know, there's songs that I don't know of, but
for sure.
And if you got an act that writes a song that sounds similar, now the record company's no, I own the rights, and look, it clearly is the same time signature.
And that's happened countless times.
And it happens so much, and I think they're praying, which is not, I don't think it's good at all, but that's where things are going, because they understand that, there's no more innovating when it comes to that. Everybody's done it. How many countless combinations now that it's getting harder and harder to innovate.
Yeah.
So your differentiation is less and less about being creative as it is more about creatively marketing yourself as different.
And what does that look like?
So we'll talk a little about marketing today, or not marketing specifically, but I want to give you guys some comparison so that you can see how close or how far off you are.
Yeah, just a reference point is to a little we did these things in school, just to see a baseline test, if you will, to see what you're how you're doing compared to what something like Jason knows to work and has worked in the past for other people.
Totally. So, in your business, you got to think your music is a business. We talk about that all the time. You're a little business. Yeah. Right? You're a solopreneur, or maybe you've got a small team, or maybe you're a band. You guys are a business, and you're selling a product or service in the marketplace. And in order to compete with other businesses in your world, you've got to do all the things they're doing, at least, right? That's minimum. And then there are other ways we can go above and beyond. But, a daily expectation, Instagram posts, for marketing, Instagram posts, tweets, Facebook updates, LinkedIn, if that's your thing.
Quick TikTok.
Yeah, quick TikTok. Google is another way,
Google,
the Google My Business or whatever. That's a good way to drive SEO, and it's it's really, really inexpensive.
Yeah.
I think it's free just to post there.
And even from our experience, just we've only had it up for a couple of weeks, you get people, just send it to your homies to rate your My Business, and it comes to the page instantaneously, the top of the page instantaneously. And it takes very, very, very little work to do.
Totally. And that's the other thing too. Incentivize people to go and give feedback, because so much of today's marketplace is based on he said, she said.
Yeah, totally.
Reviews, testimonials, everything is based on
it's a
that
make or
now.
break in that sense.
People don't even make their own decisions anymore. They just, it's a collective decision now.
Yeah.
So it's so important to get feedback all the time, and any way that you can get feedback, from fans or from whatever, is good. It'll help steer people.
Yeah, and people are so susceptible to influence. If you say something enough about something, some product or whatever, people will believe it because they've seen it so many goddamn different times. It's the same thing with the rule of 7. They've seen it so many times. They're like, oh, this works. And like, if positive or negative as well, but like if it's positive and they're hearing about it all the time, like they're going to go check it out or some capacity because they're told that it's good, right?
Yeah. No, the rule of 7's it's a big thing, and I think a lot of people in the music business don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's going to be 7 times harder to get that loyal audience member. They're that monthly, streamer or that person that's going to buy your merch and buy tickets every time you go on tour. It's going to take 7 times more work than you think.
Yeah.
Because they have to see your stuff 7 different times in 7 different ways before they really want to come and be a subscriber or be a loyal fan.
And that gives it credibility and validity to the madness of what you're doing. But okay, so that's daily. What's the next?
So that's the daily. So weekly. Now there's lots we can do in a week. We're business owners. Like there's lots to do, and there's a checklist of things that every week we got to do. I'm a big believer in farming, not hunting for business. Okay. And what I mean by that's like plant seeds, water them, plant seeds, water them. And, when you build a crop over time through farming, and it's way more sustainable, it's way more, predictable year over year. Instead of just going out, hunting and...
Well, you mitigate the volatility to it if you're farming because, like, you don't have to watch your back if a tiger's going to come and get you. Like, just playing into the allegory of it. But, like, if you're farming, like, you control the odds in some capacity.
Or, like, let me tell... Like, hunting. Like, what does hunting look like? Well, hunting would look like way more desperation. You didn't really do anything for a long period of time, and all of a sudden you're just like dialing for dollars. Yeah. You're calling promoters. You're trying to get on tours.
No certainty to it.
No certainty. Yeah. Just feels really, really loose and like a spur of the moment kind of stuff. Farming is way more. You've talked to the promoter 5, 6, 7, 8 times before you're actually asking them to join or start to work with you. You're like. You're planting seeds and you're watering them consistently.
Yeah.
And so every week I would be, now there's so many great services out there to get you on podcasts, to get you on radio shows, to get you on those kind of channels. I would be following up with 10 of those every week.
Okay.
To get you more leverage opportunities.
Yeah.
I would be following up with, 10 or 20 local promoters in the area every week. Oh yeah, every week. You should have an expectation every day. Every day, every week. It doesn't matter if you do this all in one day, great. I'm not a big believer, and I think you should spread stuff out, but consistency is the key. As long as you check the boxes every week, that's really the ultimate kind of metric. But yeah, so I'd be calling promoters every week, new promoters. Like don't call the same people every week.
Yeah.
You could probably start to make more calls because you're calling the old guys and the old people that you would have called the week before or something like that, and you're just doing follow-up. But your real money and the real relationship starts in the follow-up. You're watering those seeds every week. Call promoters. Call heads of radio stations. Call other bands or other organizations or other managers of bands and just get a foot in the door.
Yeah.
Build a relationship, water the seed. Because guess what? So much of the music industry is just putting yourself in a higher leverage situation, which usually comes from, someone who's above you or someone who's doing more than you that gives you a shot. But you get the shot because you follow up and that you've shown that you're here and please help me. I'm calling you every week. Eventually reciprocity kicks in and you kind of get what you want. But that takes watering and time, and you got to plant the seed and all this stuff.
Yeah, and the quantity there makes more sense because, like, if you're calling 20 people and it gives you a higher percentage to win than versus just calling 5 people or whatever, right?
Yeah, I can send 100 cold emails and get a very, very small percentage of replies.
Yeah,
I can make 10 phone calls and get a way higher percentage.
Yeah,
people want to talk on the phone. Yeah, give people a call. Just call them. It's not always easy to get to the gatekeeper. Sometimes it is.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, but
it takes a bit of effort. Sometimes you got to talk to an assistant or get through to somebody or talk to somebody who talked to somebody to get through to somebody. But again, it's like every week, as long as you're consistent, you all of a sudden 6 months down the road, you've broken down the barriers. You know who's who, who's the real players are in the marketplace, for whatever you're doing.
And you have an established communication, like, you know what I mean? It's not like, it's
and even
just
if they've never replied to you, just keep following up.
Yeah.
Like, keep doing it. Don't stop. Like, they're getting those emails, or they're getting those voicemails.
Yeah.
Or their assistant is getting them. And eventually they're going to go, what do you want?
Yeah. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, kid.
and then you get to, do your pitch, but be consistent. So make your calls, make your connections, always look for referral partners, always look for other bands, other acts, other people who are in your sector, mingle with them, create relationships with them, make it a win-win.
Yeah.
Like, why would somebody want you to be in a relationship is a mutual thing where it's beneficial for both parties. A band goes on tour and they can fill shows more because there's another band on tour who has their own audience, and then they piggyback each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's like everybody's better together. So you always want to think of those opportunities and like be creative about that, and then call people and pitch it to them.
Yeah.
And don't give up after 2 phone calls or 3 phone calls. But then blog posts. You've got a website just like everybody else. Are you doing blog posts? Is the content on your website relevant? Are you updating it regularly? Those should be things you look at every week.
Yeah.
YouTube videos and other media outlets and stuff. We talked about Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff, but like, that's fine. Those are just daily fire them off.
Yeah.
But the more serious stuff, right? Releases coming up, marketing for those
and
releases.
The consistency of that information being delivered to your audience.
Totally. That should be on your weekly ritual every week. And you guys should be writing this stuff down because there's lots here.
Get a pen.
Content changes on the website, photo changes on the website. You got to keep things. Google talks to websites. And if you do things according to Google's, checklist, the Google's going to rank you higher. It's going to be easier for people to find you, and it's going to be easier for potential referral partners, for potential leverage opportunities. It all starts to compound, and you want to keep an eye on analytics, SEO. We talked about power teams. A really important person to have in a power team, someone who knows SEO.
Yeah.
Like someone who knows how to run the website and build the website so that on the front of the website where the customer sees, it looks like a nice, clean website that's easy to navigate. There's call to actions. They can easily find stuff. But then behind the curtain, you want someone who's engineered it so that it talks to Google really nicely and they play well together.
Yeah.
So that it ranks really high on Google. So that's something every week. You should have some touch point. That could even be a monthly thing depending on the relationship you have with
because if people are stumbling, like if people are directly searching for like, whatever the super like specific search they put up is like they're going to find you in some capacity if you're doing it the right way. But then like you should get people who accidentally stumble upon you because your SEO is so good and you come up in so many different searches because you have all those keywords highlighted and tagged. So and like for someone to find you on accident is just like you're getting business you didn't even think like you didn't even know you had value for, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's not about them searching you directly like by name.
Exactly.
It's sort of over time it starts to be like all these keyword relationships or all these things associated with a genre, another act, an act you toured with, maybe has more traction than you, and that's helping you rank up a little bit higher. Like there's all these metrics, right? That you just want to be checking in with every week.
Yeah.
Don't miss a week. And then we talked about it, strategic partners for media, for promotional opportunities, promoters, collaborations, whatever. Like there's so many different, even speaking gigs, get on a radio show, get on,
start a podcast,
start if you've got time to a podcast. But like there's so much that you can do to just get in front of more audiences and get more leverage. Yeah. And that's like your efforts every week will determine how many shows you're doing.
Exactly.
Are you doing 30 shows a month or are you doing 5? Well, if you're doing 5 shows, you're not doing enough to get more gigs. So you need to 10x what you're doing to fill the calendar. If you're not filling the calendar, it's going to take you your whole life to get any traction.
Yeah, you got to get hungry. You got to want
And if you're not hungry, then well, why am I not hungry? Well, is this really for you? Do you just want to be a weekend warrior, or do you actually want to be a professional? Because the marketplace will weed you out. There's no fooling. You can't wear a mask out there for very long before somebody just calls you out.
It comes crushing down. The pressure it shoots you out.
You're either genuine and you give good value and you're out there and you're slugging it out and it's what you do. People can read that right away, or if this sounds like too much work, then I mean
it probably is.
Owning a business is not for everybody, So
you think your 9 to 5's cozy when you kick the 9 to 5 and you it's a rule. Like you know what I mean? Like when I first started, I was like, I'm gonna have so much more time, but it's like it's 24/7. It's not 9 to 5.
It's way different.
Yeah,
it's way different.
But then at the same time, you have all the benefits of working for yourself, right? So it pays dividends in the end.
It always pays work. It's always proportionate. Like it's always proportionate to the work you put in. If you're doing the right work. You got nothing to worry about.
Okay, so you got the month. Was that weekly or monthly?
So that was weekly. Okay, then monthly. Okay, monthly. A couple of times a month, you need to check in with a newsletter. You should have a communication with your fans. If you're not touring or if you're in between tours or you're in a lean month where there's not as many shows or whatever the circumstance is, you can't afford to lose existing audience members.
Yeah,
you got to keep them in the loop. You got to be plastered all over their email box, their whatever. Like you need to be constantly coming up to remind people that, oh yeah, you still exist.
Exactly.
So, articles, newsletters, that sort of thing. I actually really like reaching out to small time magazines. Like
interesting.
Like relevant magazines. Because it's fairly easy to get featured in articles. Like, you can kind of creatively position a story, and then if an editor goes, you know what, I could, it's a win for me, and it would be a win for you. It's a fairly low barrier to jump,
but it's instant validity because you're in a fucking magazine.
Well, it's extra exposure. It's more leverage, right? Like even if only 1,000 or 1,500 people read that magazine a month, or 15,000 people read it a month, it's just more leverage. It's that extra rule of 7. It's like that one extra spot people are seeing you
because it hits differently. Seeing it on Instagram posts versus in a magazine, like completely different psychology behind it. Same attitude and intention, but completely different delivery in terms of the different people who are seeing it and like the validity and credibility that comes with like being in a magazine, newspaper, etc. Right?
It's just audience. It's just it's a bigger lever.
Yeah.
It's like you're getting more leverage in a. It's just a higher leverage situation. So that's really. So you got to make effort every month. It's not really a daily or weekly thing. There's not so many magazines that you could call a new one every day all year long. I mean, maybe you could, but once a month I like to call, try to touch base with 15 or 20 or 50. Like you go ham if you're not getting the results, but try to connect with like a bunch of journalists or columnists that could potentially feature you or your story or whatever. That goes a long way.
And will be a quarterly next, or are you go into
yearly? No, we're still on monthly.
Oh, still on month. There's still nuggets. You still got some nuggets, eh?
Oh yeah, monthly networking events.
Oh, of course, yeah. How could
you got to hit networking events. I had a mentor one time who's like, dude, you got to do 10 networking events a week as a business owner.
So that's like what? That's 40 a month essentially.
Yeah, 40 a month.
Which is crazy.
I don't even know how to like. I mean, even now, I don't even come anywhere close to that.
No,
but I see why he said that.
Yeah,
because it was like. It always takes way more exposure than you think to get the customer base that you want.
Yeah.
Like in one of my other businesses, I run an association. It's like a association for business owners, and that gives me a few hours of networking every week.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's part of my routine. And we get what that's done is it's generated some referral partners. We've met some other industry people that have kind of helped me establish a better customer base in that business, which is great. But if I did 10 of those a week, I'd probably be somewhere between 5 and 10 times where I'd be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So think bigger. If you're doing, how many times are you going to network a month? How many times are you going to industry events or other events where other people or other potential people that you could work with would be hanging out. And just, you're just being known, you're just being present, you're having good productive conversations or not productive conversations because they can go just as far too. You're shooting the breeze with someone and you're getting along on some silly topic.
Yeah, and some similar interest that has nothing to do with
Then he's calling you next week because he's like,
that's the dude who likes Power Rangers or some random shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just, but it's weird. People make connections on that and that reads through to like more than because that person will know that there's like 80 people that can do that job. But if there's that connection, you're at the front of the line.
Totally. And then like, especially if the guy's way above you in the industry and you're just at the event because he's at the same event you are. Like I have this one guy that we do a ton of business with every year, and not because I do business with him directly, but because his customer base is the same as my customer base.
Okay.
But he's in a different service, so we just share.
Yeah.
So this is this amazing thing where like every time he gets a customer, I get a customer.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But that all started because we were talking about fishing or something. We're talking about something totally unrelated, and then he's like, "Oh, what do you do? Oh, we do this. Oh, well, I do that. Oh, that's cool. How about fishing?" You know.
Yeah.
But then now when we get together, we don't talk about business because that's all cool.
Yeah.
We just talk about fishing.
Yeah.
Because the business wasn't going right, we couldn't talk about fishing, which wouldn't be what he wanted. So he would just make sure business was going well anyway. So we just talk about fishing all the time. It's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, get out to more networking events,
Yeah.
industry events,
I need to do
associations, travel. Get on a plane, go to New York City. Get on a plane, go to LA. Get on a plane, go to Paris. If you don't have enough networking events in your city, go.
They're
Move.
out there. Yeah.
Get out there. They pay big time. You know, it might look like an upfront cost, but once you get there and you realize the value in finding that next relationship or finding that next promoter that gets you on a new tour or finding that producer to do that album that you've been holding off on, it's like, it's so insignificant relative to the relationship.
Yeah, because when you think about it like that, it's tiny.
It's tiny, you know? So think bigger, think long-term, think strategically, just go to the events. If there's not enough in your city, go. Like just do what you have to do to get to the events. Domestic travel is pretty reasonable. You know?
You
like,
do Swoop Airlines, you bring a backpack, you're chilling, dude. Like $250 to go to wherever. Like, you know, it's not terrible.
oh, it's less. I've seen flights
Really?
like coast to coast that are less.
Yeah, but it's like, is that reliable? Like the plane,
I don't
your
know.
foot flying through like the bottom of the airplane?
I don't know, probably. Probably. But anyway, so that's, and then this may or may not apply to some musicians, but proposals and presentations.
Yeah. Oh, pitch packages, man.
Yeah, like you got to pitch.
Yeah.
Like how do you expect people to believe you? You got to convince them to believe you. So you got to go and, you got to go pitch. But then you got to, again, that sort of ties into networking events. But you got to go hang out where, if you're going to go fishing, you got to go hang out where the fish are.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, totally.
So, and
you can't go to a pond, you go to a lake. You know what I mean? Like,
you can go wherever you want. You can fish with whatever you want.
Yeah.
But your probability of catching stuff has more to do with fishing in the area where the fish are than it is about
the
fishing
bait or the hook or the rod.
Yeah,
or whatever,
I mean, you can refine all those things as you go down the road. But if you're like, you got the best bait or you think you got the best thing and you're fishing in an area where there's no fish, you'll be there. It's not going to work.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, and then every month you should spend some time on new prospects, new customers. So like, I like doing content in batches. Like Adam and I like to do it in batches with this podcast. And a lot of the other things that I do everything on a monthly basis. And, some of the people that I work with, I do the same thing with.
Yeah.
There's no sense in doing stuff every single day. Like you should do little posts every single day, but all of that should be premeditated and sort of figured out so that it's just like, it's in the queue. Maybe you just got to copy and paste some stuff or type a little, description or something. But that, some of that can be strategically positioned so that you can get new customers, or win new business over. Now
Quarterly's a big boy. We're getting up there.
Yeah. But this is, I guess, maybe less important than the monthly and the weekly stuff. But every quarter, you should do some check-ins and little things, check the boxes off. And some of those boxes are, talks, videos, promotions, ads, campaigns, upcoming releases. You should look at all that stuff. Don't waste a good opportunity because you didn't see it 3 or 4 months out. Like you can create a way bigger splash. Like if you look at Rihanna or some of the big recording artists, watch how they release stuff.
Yeah.
It's really strategic. They figured this out. And it's 3 to 6 months, it's 12 months out. Maybe, I don't know if more than that is you keep people in suspense for too long.
But they have a timeline that works.
But they have a timeline that works and you're building things up to it. Like if you guys didn't know, most authors don't actually have a book together when they tell you a book's coming out.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like, and that might come as a shock to some people. I remember when I met an author one time and he was like, yeah, I'm working on my latest book. And I was like, oh, cool. And he showed me a photo of it with a cover and it had like, all the credentials on it and it looked totally done. And he's like, yeah, it's all brainstormed. I just got to go and write it.
I actually had to write the book. Yeah.
But he was like promoting it and taking pre-sales and like and selling it ahead of time and stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. And he goes, no, that's how we do it. And some artists, like especially the big ones, like the New York Times, they may have a lot of material and it's sort of all over the map. And good writers are writing all the time, but it's not mapped out in a book.
No.
That takes like a tremendous amount of effort. But usually these guys, they'll pre-sell it. They'll start to build the hype, right? They'll even have a cover totally done. Like that. Then they're pre-selling. We'll get it for half off if you book before this day, 6 months before the
incentives
release.
to sell,
And these guys go down on crazy vacations. They'll go write their book in the Caribbean on this swanky vacation home.
The proper way to write a book.
The proper way. Then they fly home. The book releases, and then they do tours to promote it until they reach that threshold where they want it to be. So think 2, 3 months, 6 months ahead of your stuff, and think in terms of quarters as well. Like, how can you better plan a release or better plan a promotion for an upcoming tour or an upcoming gig or several upcoming gigs? Have different lanes going at the same time and different channels. You can always be doing more. There's always more to do.
Yeah, and like these surprise releases, like it's cool when you're Kendrick Lamar or someone cool who does a surprise release and the fans are like, whoa, we never heard about this, is cool. But it does not work in the same capacity if you don't have that fan base already. So you need to build it up. You need to build the noise, promotions, incentives for people to buy into this product. Like just the idea of it first, they need to buy into it. And then once it's fully there and they're ready to go, it's like as soon as it drops, they're instantly buying. Like it's no question.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you build the appetite, right? People aren't hungry for your stuff. You have to make them hungry for it. You have to build that appetite. But then, I also like to check in on, we talked about it during the monthly kind of stuff, but press releases, what's been happening, you start to look at a 3-month period and you start to say, okay, am I getting the traction? Can I change things? Is there anything I could be doing differently? That's good. A good kind of metric to keep an eye on. Have I created new strategic alliances or strategic partners? Have I built out power teams? Is there other things that I've done in the last 3 months that might be really helpful? Or like what's starting to grow as a result of my farming? You kind of keep tabs on all that stuff. More testimonials, case studies, all those things you've been doing every week. A quarter is a great way to see, a bit more of a runway. It's like, is this working? Am I, is this actually getting traction? Are we getting testimonials? Are we getting feedback from fans? Are we pointing this in the right direction? Is it gonna fly on its own?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then annually, like Christmas cards and little things. You don't have to do cards, but you can do e-cards or whatever, and just let people know you're there. Photo shoots. Bands do this all the time. It's not. This isn't new, but I think it's an important thing. It's another opportunity to like show up in someone's house on Christmas Day or whatever. Or whatever holiday. It doesn't have to be any specific holiday. It could be any holiday.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that. You know Casey Neistat at all? YouTuber? So he like started the daily vlog. I'm sure we have listeners who know who Casey Neistat is, but he like vlogged for it's like 500 days. And he like started that like whole vlog culture essentially. And then he's a humongous business now. Like he sold it to, I forget who he sold it to, but he sold one of his businesses and he's set basically. But he was like this New York kid that came from nothing. But to the point of like the annual stuff, he would make these pens because he has this distinctive signature that he puts on anything in this style. So it's literally just a regular white pen with his signature on it. But at the end is like a little loop, and he ties in like a paracord lanyard, just like so you can poke it to your belt, just something small. And like he was doing it forever, and he would like burn the ends ever and do it. So, but like once he got big enough, he started hiring like an intern to do it or something like that. And he fired the intern because he didn't like burn off the frayed edges, and like they frayed, and he like found out and just like reamed him out because he thought so much about this annual gift. Because if people are using that pen, they're thinking about him every single time, and it's such the smallest thing to worry about. But in the long run, like it made him as successful as he is. So it's just these small little things that you can do annually that have a broader scope of frame of reference.
Totally. Like we've said it a zillion times. It's the ordinary things you do every day for an extraordinary period of time is what gives you the extraordinary results. It's not about doing something extraordinary. It's the little ordinary things every day consistently for an extraordinary period of time. And that's where things really
And it's just crazy because he was so anal about it that he fired the kid because he didn't do one little thing. And like, if it was me, I probably would have been there and like, oh, fuck the freight etches, like whatever. But he's so like, he just knows that this works. And like, is so like, it's so predetermined. It's so automatic that this is what he has to do. And it's like, you can do, it's like Christmas cards, same thing. Like you can do small little things that like make people think about you in an annual capacity.
Yeah, no, totally. And there's so many different ways. Like it's really, and there's infinite ways that you could, be refreshing and new, through marketing. Like there's a group on Instagram. Like I follow their stuff, not even for their music. They make these hilarious videos where they take songs, like all songs from all genres, and they put like, some cartoon character or some character there. And it sounds like, they'll take a clip where it sounds like Stewie singing and they'll put a picture of Stewie there, but it's not. It's some artist from the 70s or something. Yeah. And it's just a hilarious way to put them on the map. Mm-hmm. And it's
small things.
And it's just this little thing and it's working really well for them. You know? Like, I don't listen to them for their music or whatever, but I know who they are because they're doing that. Yeah. But if I see them 6 or 7 more times, I might go, okay, like what are they all about?
No, exactly.
So
it all comes together.
But if you're not a business person, and you just want to be the artist, then you got to look at getting a manager. You got to delegate this stuff because all this stuff can't be missed. You can't do a little here and a little there. You just won't get the traction in the time frame that you want. Like it's all about doing, things consistently for long enough that you can get that done. But if you're sporadic about stuff, or you do a little here and then a little there, and then you get motivated to do it and then you crash, and then look at getting a manager. Look at getting someone who is consistent, who understands business, is a business person, and delegate that to, and sit down with them and they'll lay it down on the line for you. Yeah. And then you can sort of walk away.
And at the same time, if you don't like these rigid timelines of having to think daily, weekly, monthly, annually, quarterly, when you have a manager, they'll do that for you. You'll just put in the work that you want to do, and we won't have to care about it because it'll all be laid out because they're doing those tasks for you. You're just doing the stuff that you love, and in turn, that product sells for itself, like because this person's already predetermined some schedule or avenue that you're taking, right?
Yeah, so, that's why talents like has representation.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to do both. And like, if you're doing both all on your own, you're not playing on a big level. Mm-hmm. There's very few people playing on a big level that are doing it all themselves. It's not how it works.
And if you do have representation and they're not doing some of these things that we're saying, like, take a look, you know what I mean? Because this is so simple. This is mind-numbingly simple. And it's just like a good place to start. So if you have representation and it's not hidden, there's always new avenues out there as well for finding, new reps and whatever.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And you know what? Maybe I'll put this on the website in a blog so people can reference it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Because you don't know how much you're doing or how little you're doing if you don't have a reference point. If you can't reference it to something, you're not going to know that, well, I don't even, I am doing enough. It's like, well, are you compared to this? And it'll help kind of expand people's understanding and awareness of what it takes, because it takes a lot more than you think. But then when you get there, you'll go, oh, of course it took that much.
Yeah. And then, you don't fall into the excuse, because I say this all the time. It's like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But it's just a stupid excuse to not, build up that reference and really, hold yourself accountable to be like, no, you know what you're doing. You're just not doing it properly. And then this is the frame that you can use, like a scaffolding to build that you can take. And then as soon as you start doing these things, it'll morph into something else because the audience is there, the feedback loop, it's all reciprocal. And then it will just, move into something else that you've created.
Yeah. And it just progresses from there. Yeah, it gets bigger. You find more people, you get more things. These actions stay consistent, but the magnitude of the results start to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. You got to think at the end of the day, it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. It's not that difficult. Break it down, figure it out. You'll be able to do it. You know what I mean? Anyways, thank you. Is there anything else you want to say? Or
no, that's it. I'll leave listeners with that, guys. Focus on the little things. Hopefully that gave you a perspective on what, roughly you need to be doing and how, if you're doing it all, great, keep going. Don't stop. But if you're falling short of some of that stuff, just, integrate some of it in the best way you can, be creative. Yeah. And if you're not good at that stuff, go find somebody who is. Life's too short to just sit there and suffer.
And grovel about your experiences.
Somebody said to me one time, well, I'm trying. But like, you can't try. You do something or you don't do it.
There is no try.
There's no trying.
Yeah.
You do it or you fail. And if you fail, that's fine. Fail.
And you learn so
much
from it at the same time.
Then you learn,
so like, fuck, there's a benefit to failing as much as there is to winning at the same time. So just don't worry about it. Thank you. Have a good one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And if you'd like to be notified of more episodes, please be sure to follow the Creative Island podcast now.
Want access to exclusive content, our community newsletter, live events, and so much more? Visit creativeisland.online today to join the Creative Island community.
See you at the top.